Hello and welcome to SBG News and Views. And today is a special program for you. And we have an amazing guest. Of course, Robert Ian Braley, my co-host, will be here. He's amazing. And then we have the lovely, the fantastic, and the wonderful Lance Shuttler from Ascent Nutrition. Now, today we're going to cover a couple things and go into depth on some maybe some subjects that may be taboo. For example, I'll say FDA, big pharma, and things like that. And yes, of course, you do understand that we will have to kind of soft step on some of these things. But the reality is, you can probably read between the lines. This is going to be very, very interesting, and nobody has more information on the nutritional industry than Lance. And I'm sure somewhere in here he'll probably show you a product or something. But you know what I love about Lance is it's going to be mainly information. So this is fantastic. Let me bring on my co-host, Robert Imri, my friend.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing excellent,
You look
excellent,
good
excellent.
today. You look well rested. I know earlier this week you were, struggling a little bit there with fatigue, but we all have that going on. I often say Lewis is the kind of guy who goes through life with his foot on the gas pedal all the way to the bottom, and I do too. And some days, harder than others.
Some days it catches up with
Yep.
you. I'll just say that,
Yep. It
you
does.
know,
It does.
and I've been working on a lot of projects. Just closed one. We got the app out, so Freedom in Action app is available for. It's a public beta. If you're on Android, just go to scrubagov.com, rememberyouroath.com, or freedominaction.net, and you will find it there. Get on there, start playing with it, and make your comments. This will be amazing. Freedom in Action app is free, and this is how you can work locally within your community, see what's going on, or nationwide, or even worldwide. So that's a huge breakthrough for us. It's over a year and tens of thousands of dollars to develop this for y'all, and I think hopefully people will not only love it. I believe it's actually a game changer when we really get a bunch of people on there.
Yep. Then there's an iPhone version coming too. It's in the works, right?
Yeah, we're just
Okay.
trying to we're working out the bugs on this one,
hmm
and the app builder said it's easy to move it over to the i version after the bugs are already worked out.
The I version. No, no, not that I.
No, one eye, one eye. I dare you, cover one eye.
One eye,
Tell me,
please.
it's a meme. We got an instant meme. As soon as you cover one eye, you're part of the club.
That's a part of the club. All right. Shall we bring in
So,
our guest?
yes, please, let's do that.
Mr. Shuttler, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Robert. Hey, Lewis. I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Excellent.
Real excited to have you here today. I know that you always bring the heat. You bring a lot of good stuff to the table, and people really love you. Actually, Lewis and I mentioned that you were going to be on the show, and right away in the chat room, I love Lance, and hearts everywhere. So you're a
Mhm.
crowd favorite, shall we say?
Thank you, guys. I love being here and I love talking with you guys. We always have great conversations that really like dive deep and I think often we don't quite know exactly where we're going to go with it, but it always ends up, discovering and revealing a lot of cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Well, because what happens is, and you can, when you have two smart guys and the clown in the middle, it always works out really well.
I wouldn't go that far, Lewis, but okay. Yes, we are good here.
Oh, I just heard the Ringling Brothers theme. Dun, 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 dun. So I'm going to kick it off real slow. FDA sucks. They're a piece of shit, and they're the actual military arm of big pharma. What do you say, Lance?
I fully agree, Lewis. Fully agree, and we'll get deeper into that for sure. And I definitely fully agree. I mean, we know that there's been hit teams involved in them and what they've done. Maybe not per se that agency, but certainly they're contracting out
Mhm.
and ensuring that certain people aren't doing what they don't want to do or what they don't want done. Um, I think too right now what's happening is it's still sort of a combination of the intelligence operation happening at a very high level and the underlings within that organization and other three-letter agencies. I think a lot of them probably don't know what's going on. They're just doing their day job.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so they're still carrying orders. They're still taking those orders and carrying out what they're trying to do. Uh, and it's sort of like, I think you were sharing even recently, there was an incident that happened And it's not surprising, but also to me still is a little surprising that they're still this active, because it's almost sort of like, hey, we're this late in the game. Wouldn't you think that they'd be trying to like the good guys in this trying to pull this down a little bit towards the end? But I guess not.
Well, I think part of it could be, and this is the conclusion Robert and I came up together because our everything we do is highly suppressed still. And Robert and I came to the conclusion that it's the good guys that are suppressing it. It just means that we're too far ahead of the narrative. And that's not positioning us as some soothsayers or predictors of the future, but we dig in a lot and we're just way too far ahead of the narrative. So we believe maybe the suppression is not just from the baddies. It could be from what I call the gray hats.
Yeah, totally, totally.
The other thing that we see is when they know they're going to be caught, you find this a lot, is that they double down. Instead of backing off, which is what you would expect them to do, they actually double down. And I think we're seeing that now. We're seeing a lot of doubling down. They're still coming up with more, jabs. And it's like, well, no, we already have the story. We have all the information. We have outlets everywhere telling you about them. But they're still continuing. They're doubling down. They're coming out with more. Now they're adding that technology.
Amazing.
Absolute insanity.
Yeah.
And it's not, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, again, it's surprising, but it's also not surprising, because that's what they have wanted to do. Is it's anti-life, as you guys fully know, and basically everyone listening knows this too. Everything is the opposite of life and God, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it. Anything that's for the continuation of life on this planet or off, they want to destruct that and stop it.
That's right. So we were talking offline, and I think I'm gonna kind of reiterate some of the things we were talking offline because it's interesting. So over 30 years ago, I was in one of several accidents, and I ended up
Pedal to
talking
the metal
to
guy. Yep.
I know I ended up talking to a chiropractor when he was trying to get me back in order, and he really taught me about big pharma and drugs at the time, and I found it fascinating that, and I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna prompt you about something you just told us about the rainforest, but I found it fascinating that he said, Lewis, well, he said everything that you need to cure a human being is already here on the planet somewhere. Most of it's been discovered, some of it has not been discovered. He says, but what happens is big pharma can't make money on nature, right? Because anybody can grow the stuff and do things with herbs and tinctures and essential oils. He said, so what they do intentionally, he says they'll find something that works, then they synthetically reproduce it. And as Robert knows, when you synthetically reproduce something, you have a string, and you can patent that string because you're actually showing how you got to the synthetic reproduction of it. So what happens is when you have a patent, now you can make a lot of money on it. Then back in the day, I don't know how much it is now, but it would cost about $250 million to get a drug to market. But it's less than $500,000 to do the testing on the drug. So that's pay to play. So they're paying the FDA, right, to play in this. And therefore, that's why I think the FDA is the military arm for big pharma, because they get paid so much. The last thing they need is anything that you would come up with as a cure that's not synthetically reproduced. But here's the fallout from this. In fact, I had a conversation with somebody I did some work for a while, and she had all these drugs. She's an elderly lady. She had all these drugs on her counter, and we just started talking about it. I go, what was the first drug? And she goes, well, it was for this, my kidneys, right? And I said, then what's? She goes, but I had a side effect, so I had this drug, and this drug had a side effect, and so on and so forth. She had nine different drugs, but all of them, the eight of them, were due to the fact that the first drug had a side effect, and then it became a chain, which is just disgusting. And here's why I'm getting to the point. What this guy told me over 30 years ago, he said, Lewis, here's what you need to understand. When you synthetically reproduce something, yes, you can patent it, but everything that is synthetic, when it enters the body, your body doesn't read it as a medicine, it reads it as a poison. And therefore, it will have a reaction or a side effect. And then that's where that chain comes from. Lance, you were telling me something about the rainforest that I thought was interesting that correlates with this.
Lewis, the rainforest, was that Lewis or sorry, was that Robert or myself?
You were mentioning about when people are down there and researching that they all saw big pharma down there doing the same thing.
That was me telling you that story, Lewis.
Oh, Lance, Robert, what's the difference? You guys look identical.
Lance has better hair than me, so I get it. You can get confused.
So, Robert, what was that about? That was very interesting.
John Easterling, he formed an MLM years ago called Rainforest Bioenergetics. I was part of it. I met with John. I hung out with him. He was married to Olivia Newton-John, if you remember. So he would go down in the rainforest, and he said the real treasure in the rainforest is not the artifacts that a lot of people go down there for. It was really the botanicals. And he would go and find these botanicals and bump into a lot of people from Big Pharma. And what they would do is they would look at the indigenous people there and say, what are you taking? What are you doing? And when ailments would come up, what herbs would they take, or what bark would they eat, or what root would they eat? And he would find all that information, bring that back. And he says Big Pharma was down there too, and they were taking these same herbs back to the laboratory so they could synthetically reproduce them. Because if you took an herb and put it on the market and you have no patent protection, well, what's to stop 10 other companies from doing the same thing? Well, nothing. It's hard to have a market advantage in that kind of scenario. So it's the marketplace, I think, that drives it in a very negative way, where they have to find a way to protect it, and patenting is the tool that they use. But he said the same thing, Lewis. He said, there is no ailment that any person can suffer that there's not already a cure on the face of the planet for. It's just a matter of finding it. And you see these doctors in India, you'll go and there's long line of people, and the person comes up to the doctor and he says, this is what's going on, gives them this bark or this root or this herb or whatever, and says, go on your way. And the medicine man, they actually do that, and the stuff works. But here in this country, can't do it. Somebody told me too, in Brazil, if you go into a herbal store, you could say that there because you don't have the FDA. Here, you can't say that kind of thing. So all you can say is, this is the herb. Good luck. Hope you did your research, what it is. And it's really sad because that information could save so many people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did John say, let's get physical, or grease is the word?
Both. Yeah. We actually shared a hotel room with him when we were in Chicago. He came to Chicago. We shared a hotel room, all of us. We hung out, and he's a really cool guy, really nice guy.
Very cool.
Yeah. It was a big hotel room with multiple little rooms. So,
So Lance, I know you have to tiptoe around some of this stuff, but with Big Pharma and the way they behave, clearly. Okay, me personally, I think it's more than just a money operation. I think they're intentionally trying to keep us sick, not just for their money, but it helps dummy down our resonance, and therefore we don't fight back or stand up the way we should.
That's the happy side effect, Lewis.
Yeah, for them.
Yeah, for them.
Yeah. Yes, I fully agree. I mean, we've seen this, we know this. Yes, all of it's a money grab, and the whole pyramid's been set up to steal the resources and our wealth from us. But as you guys know, and again, everyone listening, we know that this goes way beyond just financial control. They do want us quite sick. They want it to steal our money while we're sick, and while we get even more sick, be dependent on their sick care system and drain our accounts and, lower the energy of us and our family throughout the whole time. And, we've seen that happen. We know that's actually taking place. Now, are most people in the healthcare field, are they actively trying to do this? No. But we know that it's the ones truly that are pulling the levers at the top. Absolutely. And, you guys were talking about, with the FDA, I'm going to give an example for people so they can hear this really clearly, as an example of how they limit language. So let's say you've got hibiscus flower. We know that reduces blood pressure, or it can, high blood pressure, it can reduce it. It does that by cleansing the arteries and the blood vessels. There's different anthocyanins and compounds in there that help to cleanse the circulatory system. Many other herbs that do that. This is just one example. But with the FDA, you can't say, okay, hibiscus is going to lower your blood pressure or may potentially lower your blood pressure. You have to say, according to them, hibiscus helps support a healthy blood pressure. So, in essence, what that means is you can't say something that this herb or this bark or this root is going to modulate in any way your physiology. So, in other words, you can't say it's going to raise it or lower it. You have to say it supports something that's already healthy in a normal, average, healthy range. It's only going to support that continuation. But that is, if you think about it, the dumbest,
Yep.
most like intellectually stupid thing that you could say, because if you're putting a compound in your body, a flower, a root, a bark, cocaine, other drugs, whatever it is, it's going to have an impact on your system, whether it's beneficial or not.
Hmm.
Like it depends on what the compound is. So to say, okay, I'm going to drink this pop and it's going to support liquid flowing through my body. That's essentially what you're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
well we know that. Duh. But what is this actually doing? So, I get worked up on this because, I've had to walk this line for quite some time. The day will come, you guys, and we know this, where we're going to all be able to freely speak without any fear of repercussion. Them going after businesses and things like that. But for right now, they've held this and it's criminal in every regard. And I think just from the spirit level of they're telling us what we can and can't say on things that we know are facts. And again, we've seen this play out over the past 4 years and beyond in other ways. But two, with this, it's utmost insanity. You can't say what the basics are of physiology and what's happening in nature.
Yeah, and this is absolutely indicative of pay to play. And because what you're talking about is absolutes. So big pharma and doctors talk about pharmaceutical drugs in absolute terms. It does this, it cures this. Here's the result of this, right? But you have to pay to play. Where if a supplement company that has something amazing and is, by the way, it's God's creation, is all Lance is doing is he's searching for God's creation that fixes some issues, right? Which it couldn't be any more absolute than that. But you can't speak in absolutes
Yep.
because you haven't paid or played to do so.
I'll give you one
100%.
more. Lance, you want to jump in?
No, go ahead, Robert.
Okay. I'll give you one more thing. The only reason the whole healthcare industrial complex exists is one emotion, and that's trust, right? And now you have to ask the question, okay, where's the trust now? Because I've got a lot of people I'm speaking to that they are not listening to their doctor anymore. Their doctor says, take this drug, and they won't even go fill the prescriptions. I think at some point we wake up enough and we turn our backs on all of it, and then it's done.
Yeah, let me take it one step further, Robert, because you're 100% right on what you said. So what I'm hearing and seeing is a lot of people are still going to doctors to do the testing. They're doing the blood tests and so on and so forth. And then they get a whole bunch of prescriptions and they throw them in the trash.
Yep.
And then they go find the natural cure or remedy
There's
for
a
that,
whole
which
industry called functional medicine, and that's exactly what they do. Use modern medicine to do the testing, the diagnoses, and then they ignore the recommendations and they go find a naturopath to do that part of it. Yeah. So you want the best doctor out there, go find a functional medicine doctor because that's exactly what they do. Yeah. Good point, Lewis. Was there more? I know I cut you off there a little bit.
No.
Okay.
I'm done with my points today.
You're very pointed today. I appreciate that.
Now I'm pointless.
For the moment, because Lance is going to bring something up is going to make us think a little bit more.
He will. Lance sparks me all the time.
He does.
It's awesome. So Lance, can you give us an example of something in nature that just blows you away that actually really takes care of people?
Yeah. So it relates to my company, and I'm saying this not from a sales angle, you guys, but because it's like truly very powerful. So the pine pollen tincture is the first product that Ascent Nutrition launched back almost 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, coming up on four. And the reason we did that is because there's 200 different nutrients in it, but specifically it's acting as medicine for people. Okay. You guys know this, and a lot of people have listened, have heard me say this, that the whole point of why we got into this was to provide what nature has, what God has to people to help them with health and wellness issues. Okay. Because I saw personally what pharmaceuticals can do to a person's mind and how it can make them, end up wanting to take their life. And so I wanted to do things that are the opposite of that, counter that. And pine pollen, so we think about pollen as like a nuisance, but it's actually an incredible gift for us. It depends on the species, of course, but there's several out there that are actually very beneficial for us. So the pollen, it's created over a year's time essentially, and done so by the pine trees battling, the harsh elements of nature, the wind, the cold, hot summers, wherever those trees are growing. And just like us humans, let's say if we're battling something, we're have people coming at us, we have different things we have to go through. It's stressors, and these stressors, ideally, they help us to become better, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally. We know some of these stressors are not beneficial, but the whole point of growth is to take on a little stress or a stressor and become better than you were, regardless of what that looks like. Again, physically, mentally, emotionally. But with things in nature, they're undergoing this massive amount of stress because the elements are literally bashing these trees. And so these trees have to form defenses, just like other plants, they'll form defenses. And what they do is they create compounds to act as defenses. And so for pine trees, some of that is the pine pollen. And when we take in the pine pollen, we're actually taking in, the end result of all those forces, all those elements of nature battling together against that tree or those trees. And the tree is producing this beautiful, it's not a fruit, but you could think of it as like a fruit, in that the pollen is sort of the end result. And what happens is when we take that in, there's 200 different nutrients that us humans and our bodies can actually recognize. So Lewis, you were talking about how the synthetics, the body can't recognize it. It just acts as a poison. And that's true because we're not designed to recognize synthetic man-made crap. We're meant for the natural substances. And so pine pollen, coming back to your question with this, libido and hormones. Like this is a huge thing happening right now, especially the hormones. They are, as we know, trying to reduce the amount of testosterone in us men. They're trying to screw with the amount of estrogen in both men and women. And so, to me, the pine pollen it's a great antidote for a lot of things, but really it's a true uh, you could call it a weapon in terms of beneficial effects for us humans because it's literally giving us the raw power of that, and literally some of the bioidentical compounds that mimic testosterone or estrogen to have those beneficial hormone and libido and just like energy producing effects. So pine pollen, it's super strong stuff, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to get it out there, because it can act as a replacement for a lot of these synthetics that are out there that people are being told to take for low hormones, low libido, things like that.
Yeah, fascinating. When you say it's a tincture, I don't know if people understand what that means, Lance. I know you're not taking the pine pollen directly and sprinkling on your toast in the morning, right?
Right, right. So we do an alcohol and glycerin extraction, and we just hold it in a liquid bottle, about 3 ounces, and then with a little bit of that alcohol, you actually want that in there for this particular product because it's got brassinosteroids, DHEA, the bioidentical testosterone and estrogen, and other compounds like that. And the alcohol can actually get that into the bloodstream. And so, yeah, Robert, we're not taking the actual pine pollen and just eating it, but we are making an extract. It's in that finished product, and then those compounds can get into the bloodstream when you take it as a tincture with a little dropper.
Perfect. Perfect. Hormone balance. Boy, you're right, Lance. Like, the synthetic estrogen is everywhere, plastic bottles and a lot of the foods that we're eating. I hear tofu also messes with your hormones. So, we're getting, you're right, we're getting messed with a lot. And, our job is to really put things back in balance as best as possible.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I heard this story. This is from a friend. I'll keep that person's name quiet because I know this isn't supposed to get out there, but it's a interesting story that he had a conversation with a doctor who was just about to retire, and I don't remember that person's title, but it was pretty high up at a big hospital here in the U.S. In a big city, and this person, like, they were talking about hormones and things like that, and this was probably 10, 15 years ago. And the doctor pulled my friend aside and like literally scanned the room and where they were at and looked up and down and whispered in my friend's ear and said, they want to turn the men into women and the women into men. And they said, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is 100% fact. And I've got the evidence. This is what they're actually doing. And then they went into a whole long thing on it. So, it's blatant and clear as day for us now, but it was an interesting story, even 3 years ago when I heard it, these people could see even back then, hey, there's something going on and it's pretty covert, but now it's just become so over and in our faces. And that's part of the satanic agenda is gaslighting and lying to your face, or saying, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that, as they're doing it right to us.
It's Donald Trump doing
So
it. Blame
Say it
everything on
again.
Trump, right? That's the game.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
projection, always projection, projection. It's like they will blame the other side for what they're actually doing, right?
yeah, totally.
So this is a perfect segue into my next question. It's very clear that the deep state satanic cabal, as I call them, um, are doing everything they can to attack our discernment and resonance. So if we bring it down to a simple organ, let's just say it's the pineal gland, right? Um, what on earth that you already know natural that helps decalcify, cleanse, and open up your pineal gland so it can actually operate and make you discern or help you discern a lot better just by because it's clean. Is there anything out there in regards to not a product but something in nature?
Yes. Okay, a few things. Humic and fulvic acids do it. Turmeric does it. Curcumin. We've seen that published as well. Zeolites are known to do it. Um, Bacopa is said to do it. Um, Triphala, which is an Ayurvedic combination of three different herbs. Um, and those are the ones that I know of, Lewis. Now, there's a lot of people that will say to do this or that, and that's going to decalcify your pineal gland. But it's kind of a loaded thing where, okay, how do we actually know that? What's the actual research that have been done to
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
decalcify the pineal gland, and not just like, hey, take this and it's gonna clear your pineal gland overnight, So those are the ones that I know. Um, Pine needle extract, pine pollen in some ways. I think there's correlation to it. Um, uh, but it's just because of some of the different compounds in there. But for sure, the ones that are, scientifically known, the curcumin from turmeric, humic and fulvic acids, and, some of these other big compounds. Glutathione I know as well. SOD, superoxide dismutase, those ones for sure.
So I think the humic and fulvic acid, if I'm right, that's what my wife calls the dirt pills. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. She loves those by the she swears by the dirt pills. And By the way, I didn't know the answer to this, so I wasn't setting Lance up, but that is a product you sell, is a humic and fulvic acid.
Yes,
I
yes.
know because she takes them daily. And she keeps saying you should take them more often, and I should. So, but like I don't pretend to do something I don't do. Um, is there anything, is other, do you have any of the other items within a product that you offer, or is it just the humic and fulvic acid out of what you just mentioned?
We do have a turmeric product, that's turmeric with ginger, both organic. We also have the pine pollen tincture, like we talked about, the pine needle.
Mhm.
Um, we don't have the zeolites, but that's a fantastic product that people can take. We've got some glutathione in the pine pollen tincture, but there's obviously many other great glutathione specific products. Um, but I think the big thing around that is heavy metal chelation, but also that one of the biggest things that I did not mention is iodine. And the reason is because if you saturate your body with iodine, it displaces bromide, chlorine, and fluoride
Yep.
because those compounds they're shaped very similar to iodine, but the fluoride will actually kick out the iodine, and instead of the iodine being there, it'll be fluoride. So, it's been this whole plan, as we know, and they've done it in every which way possible to get as much fluoride in us, bromide, chlorine in our systems, and keep out iodine. So, there's a doctor out there, Dr. David Brownstein. He's one of the best experts on iodine. People can look him up. He's got several books. I've read some of his books and benefited a lot from his information and helped a lot of people with it. Um, you know, Women who are looking to support breast health and, some of the bad stuff that can happen, like C word, um, you
Did you say the
definitely,
C word?
yes, yes, you definitely want to look at
Is it
iodine.
cantankerous?
Yep, yep,
Okay, got it.
yep. Look up Dr. David Brownstein, and he's got great information out there specifically on that and iodine, and really for any sort of uh, you know canker out there, let's say.
Canker,
uh, the iodine is fantastic.
gotta gotta work on the cankers.
Yeah.
So with humic and fulvic acid, other than the pineal gland, I know it has a lot of great things. Can you discuss that?
Yeah, it'll bind to different heavy metals and chelate them, and it actually can neutralize some radioactive substances. So, like they've done experiments where they've had some like plutonium and uranium. It actually can bring to neutral. And now it depends on the volume and the amount and all of that, of course, in the right situation, but it is known to do that. It can neutralize the effects of some pesticides, but that's in the soil. Um, Same thing within the human body. Like we're all exposed to pesticides. So if we take in those humic and fulvic acids, it will bind to them and over time can start to chelate and pull them out too. Um, and really just like nutrient absorption, that's one of the big things, and gut health. A lot of people feel beneficial effects gut wise with the humic and fulvic, and that's very intentional. There's many people who talk about that. Dr. Zach Bush, he's a great medical doctor and naturopathic doctor and integrative physician. He knows all about this stuff, and he talks a lot about humic and fulvic acids. And that's one of the big things that he suggests for the gut, the microbiome, the gut-brain connection, all of that.
And then how do you source these materials? Because I know we talked about before on your coffee and some other things, and you literally go to the ends of the earth for this. So how did you sort the humic and fulvic acid?
Um, so it's here in the U.S. It's in an ancient soil deposit. And then what we do, of course, is test to make sure it's clean and that it's not, testing heavy with anything. And it does not, of course. And the way that we've done this, Lewis, is we have our finished product. We have it where it's about 20 times smaller than your average humic compound particle size. And we can do this mechanically. So we're not using solvents, we're not using heat, we're not using chemicals. It is our process, so I have to like keep it exactly quiet, but it's It's done very clean mechanically, and we can basically grind that humic compound down even further. And, we haven't done a double blind placebo controlled study on this, but we can say theoretically that a person should get greater absorption with our humic because of that. And, we've got great feedback from people who are getting great results, and definitely does suggest that it is having a higher quality impact, let's say, than just something typical.
Amazing, amazing.
It's very much a crowd favorite. I know a lot of people who have purchased it, and they've given me their feedback, and they say this is really great. Phoebe's favorite product of yours, by the way.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah. So everyone's got the heavy metal exposure, and chelation is so important to get that stuff out. And yeah, you got to do it. It's almost one of these supplements that you want to take every day just to keep your body as clean as possible, because these toxins, not only will they cause you to gain weight, so if you're looking to lose a little bit of weight, detoxing is a great way to do it. You don't have to necessarily curb your diet as much as, but try to keep it as clean as possible. And these tools to get the toxins out of your system help a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And if you guys think about it, like, or all of us, we know, we just look up in the sky, not everywhere, not every day, but often we're getting sprayed. And where does that go? If we're not breathing it in, it's going into the soil, or it's going into the water, and it is eventually making its way back to us. So I personally take it just about every single day. And like, I really mean that. Like, it's foundational. It's fundamental. It's supposed to be in the soil. It's supposed to be in the food. Even if you are buying organic, you'll get some of it in that. But we know, like, even the organics has been co-opted. That the USDA organic label, I don't really trust it. I mean, I think there's some validity to it in some ways, but not what you really want to like put the house on.
Yep. So, and I'm hearing that there's still repercussions of that. I actually thought the shedding wouldn't last that long. It appears that it is lasting a long time. Well, that would be spike proteins mainly. I would assume. But what's your thoughts on that? And are there any natural remedies out there that you would recommend for something like that?
Yes, and I'm going to pull this up here, an exact slide to show you. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yeah, I can, but that's the problem I'm having with the computer right now, is it's not showing correctly. I'll show you how badly it looks. So I've got a little issue on my side to fix that.
Okay, no worries. I'll go through it real quick, Robert. So people could see that, and essentially what this is from a PubMed article. The article is titled "Clinical Review of Humic Acid as an Antiviral." Lead up to translational applications in clinical humanomics. So that image, what it was showing was that humic acid actually binds to the spike protein receptors and has been shown to actually neutralize the shedding of those spike proteins. And it's basically stopping the viral replication of that the shedding of them. But also we know that humic, and I didn't show this, there's a whole list. Humic is antiviral against bacterial. It's more of the environment and things like that. And I actually resonate with that. I think that's probably more real than what we've been told on just the classical physical side of things. Yep. But just in terms of our conversation, like, we know humic does have those properties and is doing those things. So what we tell people, regardless of what you've done or not done with heavy metal injections, we're all exposed to it. The food, the water, it's in all the cans. It's so hard to actually find anywhere where we're not exposed to it. And this isn't, as you guys know, this is not fear mongering. It's not trying to like sell supplements just to fit a need. No, like, I've been telling people this stuff and doing it myself, taking this stuff because I know, and I've known, hey, all this crap is around us. Even if I'm limiting and eating as much, organic or clean as I can, regardless of what's going on, we're still all exposed to it. And so I want to do what I can to make sure that those compounds suck up any of the heavy metals, all the crap that's out there, and just, cleanse me. And you can feel it. You can feel it if you take it over time and you do it. It helps. Even if you're already doing things super clean, it only helps.
So there's a lot of talk. What regardless if that's true or not, but assuming it is, that's great. Even if it's not, we know parasites are a huge issue in the human body, and even in animals now. They're really finding a lot of parasites, bad parasites. What would you recommend to combat parasites, or even a cleanse, or both?
Okay, so for the stuff that we've got, again, the first is the humic and fulvic, and it really does have many different applications. The second would be like black walnut hulls, or black walnut as a tincture. You could do pau de arco, which is I believe a South American bark. Um, there's wormwood you can take. Many others. Robert, I know that you've probably got some off the top of your mind, but those are like the main three that I've really used outside of the humic and fulvic is pau de arco, wormwood, um, uh, black walnut hulls, or like a black walnut tincture. Those are super strong against candida and also parasites and just like worms and things like that. Also turpentine.
Mm-hmm.
Turpentine, something, super controversial, but super effective. Um, I'll share just very quick my story with turpentine. I've only taken it a couple times, and it's because it was so powerful. So turpentine, if you guys don't know, you might hear it as a paint thinner, and that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're also talking about is turpentine, which what that is, it's a compound that comes from pine trees. And it's super, super strong, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic, like crap. And but the good news is afterwards you feel amazing because you are detoxing, you get rid of a bunch of crap. So it can be super powerful and strong. It's, I think, one of, like, you might look at it as like a last resort, or something that you try if you're not having effects with other things first, because it can be super uncomfortable. But have you guys done that? And like, what are your thoughts on that?
I'll let Robert answer first.
I
And
have not done that one, but I've done the black walnut hull, the green walnut hull as well. And Lewis, when you were here, we have a black walnut tree on the property, and you actually had some of the black walnuts, if you remember. Yeah.
Yum, yum.
So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff for sure.
Um,
Wormwood, very important. Done that as well. What is it? Not olive oil. Oregano oil of oregano. Off parasites. I've done a lot of different things. Turpentine I've not tried though. That's an interesting one.
it is, and I've done turpentine a few times. I've had a phenomenal reaction, and then I had one of the worst reactions in my life, but that's because I did a stupid Lewis thing. So it's fantastic for parasites, and then I had an ear infection. So what did I decide to do? I said, let me put it in my ear. What? That was one of the most painful experiences ever. And what was bad about it is I didn't realize, because it's kind of like an oil, so it absorbed in there. So I'm trying to rinse it out, and it wouldn't rinse out because it's already going in there. And my wife is, what are we doing? We're putting liquid soap in there. We're doing everything we possibly could. Um, that is, and I didn't learn my lesson. I tried it another time because I used to have ear infections with oregano, and that was bad too. So, guys, let me tell you what not to do. If you
Yeah.
ever want to know what not to do, just ring me up, and I can let you know. I've done all the stupid things myself. But the turpentine, it was awesome when I ingested it just with a drop or two. Yeah, you get it's an amazing. I called it a detox, but I guess it's really not. It just purges
Yeah.
parasites.
Mhm.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible, Lewis. I'm sure that was painful.
Oh,
It hurts even just thinking about
oh,
that.
two of the most painful incidents in my life was with turpentine in one ear and oregano in another day. Just not. My wife is laughing because she saw it firsthand. She's like, "You're such a knucklehead." But I'm all in. You know what I mean? I had a wart on my arm for years I couldn't get rid of, and I ended up finding a cigar torch, heated up the end of a fork until it turned hot red, and I burned that puppy off. Now the good news is it's gone. It never came back. This is over almost 20 some years ago, but you can still see the marks. That probably wasn't a good idea
Yeah.
either. But whatever. Don't do what Lewis does. He's not the brightest bulb on the racetrack. Ah.
But you know, the good news is you're willing to try things that other people would not be willing to try, and then you can report back.
Yeah, well,
You
I'm
know?
I'm an inventor.
Yeah. You may find something that works that we didn't know about.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's a-
exactly. And there's a doctor on that turpentine. So, people are hearing us talking. It sounds like we're kind of just like self-experimenting, and we obviously were, and we're doing that. But where I got the information, I'm sure that you got this too, Lewis. We've all heard of this, I think, of this doctor. I think her name is Jennifer Daniels. That may be way off, but that's just what's like ringing up for me. She was a medical doctor and she was kicked out of the US, lost her medical license because the big thing that she was doing for Alzheimer's, gut things, all sorts of things was turpentine. And they kicked her out of the US, but she published all of her stuff and you can find her. She's the doctor on that, and she's done great things.
yeah, it is Jennifer Daniels, and yes, I'm looking. That's exactly where I learned about turpentine from. So that's interesting. I think that about does it today, Robert.
Wonderful. Well, let's let people know where to go if they want to find Lance's products, because important to do that. You can go over to SBG Ascent. That's Ascent. I know some people were saying they're having a challenge remembering how to spell Ascent. SBG Ascent is the link you'll use, and we're showing the pine needle extract. One of our favorites. Lewis and I think it tastes great, and you can see promotes healthy respiratory function, supports a healthy immune system, assists brain and nervous system health, and supports a healthy detoxification process, which we all need to detox a little bit from. Lance, always a pleasure to have you here. You're a fan favorite. You should know that. And, there'll be a lot of testimonials and a lot of people talking in the chat about, how much you've shared. And we're going to have you back because people need to know more. There's so much about the healthcare world that they're, not being told. And it's really good to have somebody on here who's not afraid of, shedding light on some of the things that can help in other ways rather than drugs.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Lewis. I always love being here with you guys too. It's always a fun conversation, organic and easy, and we're always on the same page, but we've got different stories and different perspectives on it that I think, hopefully people are finding valuable.
Absolutely. Lewis, thank you. Appreciate you, my friend. And Lance, thank you so much. And we will have you back again. And thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, follow, and make sure that you're still following our Rumble channel. And if you really like this, please share it with your friends and followers. And we'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching.